The Telegraph and the Sydney Morning Herald both reporting the entire West Tigers board has been dismissed effective immediately. The chief executive, Justin Pascoe, resigning from the club. Barry O'Farrell will become the interim chairman, while Shane Richardson will become the interim chief executive. Now, I do understand Danny Stapleton will remain on the board. That's my information. But to join me to talk all things rugby league and the West Tigers, Michelle Bishop back in the seat. Hey, Shell.
Good afternoon. You had me at chunky and meaty. I'm here, I'm back, and I'm ready to roll. And I'm just wondering if we're going to celebrate this afternoon with a 1959 bottle of Penfolds Grange.
Oh, yeah.
Barry O'Farrell. Do I have to explain my
that's
jokes?
right. That's right.
Anyway, well,
I love Barry.
Started well.
It's great.
I'm a fan of Barry.
Yes.
Good bloke.
Shane Richardson
Second
to join the
stint
team
too, because he was there, 4 years ago. It didn't last the 12 months. He had other commitments. But, look, no matter what way you look at this, good, bad, indifferent, I just want the West Tigers to move forward and be a powerful club.
If I'm Benji Marshall, I've got to say, I'm tickled pink with this. And he would have relationships, as I do, with some of the outgoing board members, but they needed this. They needed, in emergency break glass. And this glass had to be broken, and they've done it succinctly and swiftly. To be honest with you, when this review was happening, I was thinking, okay, the feather dust is going to come out of here.
I'm with you.
Were you thinking the same?
I think we all did, that they'd sort of, buy a bit of time, smooth it over, let the off-season, come back saying we're going to be bigger and better this year, like they always have. But clearly that hasn't happened. It's been a real shock this afternoon. Look, when you have a look at some of the individuals, big fan of Lee Hagipantelis. Unfortunately, he's collateral damage out of this. I am a fan of Danny Stapleton's. Had a long-term relationship with Danny. I'm glad that he's still in and around. I think he, brings a bit of footy smarts to the board as well as business. But look, as you say, I'm not a passionate West Tigers supporter. I grew up being a very passionate Balmain supporter on that hill in the old days. But it's just sad to see how bad the club has been over a long period of time.
So not the company, but the group, I suppose, who was sort of leading this, and I do love the fact that in many ways, 4 of the individuals part of this group have almost got rid of their own job.
Yeah.
The Holman Barnes group, who were the committee who had conducted the independent research on what's going on at the West Tigers, Tony Andraco, Julia Romero, Dennis Burgess, Rick Wade, were also part of the West Tigers board.
Yep.
So with themselves making this decision, they've also cost themselves out of the West Tigers board. So
it kind of tells you that, I guess, their heart, their mind is all in the right place, and that, putting the club first.
Of course it is. So that's what's happened. It's major news. And for me, as a West Tigers invested person, I suppose, I do think, whilst I feel for the people who, they do put, no matter what you think of anyone attached to rugby league clubs or sporting clubs, they are giving their heart and soul, quite often for not much. So I do feel for those people outgoing. But at the end of the day, change had to be made. The West Tigers have been the laughing stock.
For a long time, for too long.
For too long. And you can't put all the blame on the board or, even Pascoe, Hagipantelis. You can't do that. But it does send a bit of a message. We've got the news at the moment of David Norfoluma, which we'll talk about as well. But it is big news. Have your say on the text line, 0457 736 736. Call 1300 01 1170. And as I reinforce, I do believe that it's nothing personal to anyone who's on the outgoing side of things, but it just has to happen. It had to happen. And you think of Shane Richardson and success that's followed him. You think about Barry O'Farrell and what he's achieved in government and corporate world. It has to be a good sign, Michelle.
And as you say, if you're Benji Marshall right now, I guess you're kind of feeling like, wow, this is a clean slate. This is my chance to stamp my authority. It's my first year as a head coach, and which obviously brings straight to the top the David Norfoluma situation, which you said that we will address. I think it's a big chance for him to, set a standard moving forward. There's no more mucking around. They need to. It's not about effort anymore. It's about results, and West Tigers fans, they deserve it.
Well, and you know what they've done. So if you know everything, that's when you're in trouble. Well, they've gone to independence. I think Tony Crawford might have played a big part. Do you know who else was involved in the independent
Can't remember.
I think Tony Crawford, who was ex-NRL, he had a major part to play with that.
And I think he has a really good relationship with Shane Richardson from
Yes.
his time there. But that's just it. I have to be honest with you. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I don't know. I didn't invest in it because I just thought it was another, here we go.
Yeah.
We'll just be told this, and this, and it'll buy a bit of time, and they'll start the year next year, and it'll all be the same old, same old.
Yep. And you know who the most prized icon now is? Tony Crawford and co. What about every other fan who's not West Tigers at the moment? Michelle, they're sitting there going, "Hey, Tony, you got a spare couple of months?
Yeah.
You want to come check our club out?"
Yeah, what are you doing at the end of January?
Yeah, but that's accountability, right?
Yeah.
So that's what you want in life, is to be properly appraised. And he's come in there with the team, and they've pulled the trigger in a major, major way. And all ships rise with the tide. This is going to keep happening. I promise you right now that Tony Crawford and co. will pick up another gig similar fashion to this, and not just in rugby league.
Yeah, that they will. And look, just going back onto the West Tigers and their situation, it's those 1%ers that we're really keen on. And one of the big things, I have a long history with the Balmain Tigers. That's
Yes.
the club I grew up in. Mum was marketing manager there in the Billy Caine sort of days. Kerry Hemsley is one particular player who says, we're never invited back. We're never involved. It's nothing about the old boys. I know Kerry quite well,
Yep.
grew up with him. He's a regular at the Giants and the Swans in the AFL because no one's wanted to know where he is, what he's doing. He's not been a part of that club. So one of the big things is they have to look at is bring the old boys back, because it's all about the history, and combine them. I know it's been such an issue with the merger. We need to grow up and get over it,
Yep.
because there's a lot of good history there that they should be learning from.
Tell you, I feel for Joe Cool. Johnny Dorothy, he'd only been there for 10 minutes, so
Yeah,
he
5 minutes.
he can only take all the blame. But anyway, that's not good for him. But terrific fella, Joe Cool. Lee Hagipantelis was on the show this morning with Brandy and the Missile, talking about today's board meeting. Here's what he had to say this morning.
Well, there's a lot of misreporting about that, Andrew. I'll clarify. There is no West Tigers board meeting tonight. The board meeting that's being held tonight is by the Holman Barnes Group, who are the majority stakeholder, of course, who have commissioned this review.
Right.
And the report, as I understand it, has been complete, and it will be presented to the Holman Barnes Group tonight. And if that's the case, then it will be a matter for the Holman Barnes Group as to whether the report is considered tonight or adopted, or whether the recommendations are adopted, or whether it's stood over to the new year or not. It's a matter entirely for them. But it's not. The matter has not landed in the West Tigers' lap as yet. It is still with our shareholders, the Balmain Group and the West Asheville Group.
Okay, there you go. Well, it has landed in the lap now, Michelle, some hours on. And
Can I just say, though, there have been reports that tonight's scheduled club board meeting was understood to have been delayed 24 hours. And that was, of course, to complete the legal documents to allow this new structure to be put in place.
yes.
So
So are you suggesting that West Tigers in their past would wait for things to become official before it gets out in the public?
can you believe it?
Is
Is
that
this
what-
something new?
Oh, it's so topical. So just repeating, the entire West Tigers board, sans Danny Stapleton, have been dismissed effective immediately, with Chief Executive Justin Pascoe resigning from the club. Barry O'Farrell will become the interim chairman. Shane Richardson will become the interim chief executive. Lee Hagipantelis on 2024 and what the future holds for the Tigers. This is what he had to say this morning.
Look, I mean, we fully understand and share the angst and the disappointment that occurred this year and last year, of course. There's no denying that, and there's no point in downplaying it whatsoever. But all those that are involved in the club, from the board right through to the football department, are absolutely committed to turn things around. And it's been a work in progress, and it has been a work in progress for some time. I mean, looking back over that period, had the mistakes been made? Perhaps, in hindsight. But moving forwards, we are absolutely committed to the structure that we have put in place now. I personally could not be more impressed with Benji and the coaching structure that he's put together, and that the way that the players have responded to Benji over the last month or so. It's been incredible to watch. I've been down to training, I've seen the players, I've spoken to a number of them, and they are all responding to Benji in a very, very positive way. Now, 24 is just around the corner. How will 24 be judged? Now, personally, from my perspective, I'm not going to be judging it by wins and losses, although that's very, very important. It's just effort. I just want to see the effort. And Benji is instilling a certain benchmark and a certain demand of the players. and it all comes down to effort, and that's the catch cry. And that's what I would like to see. If we see that effort continue throughout 24 at the highest level, I'm sure we'll win a lot more games than we lose next year. So that's going to be the benchmarking for me. And as I say, Benji's been a revelation. The way he's assimilated into that role has been effortless, and I think he's going to be wonderful for those players and wonderful for the club.
Yeah, he may be. Benji Marshall, and what do you make of those comments, Michelle?
Yeah, look, I'm a massive fan of Lee. You know that, Hagipantelis. But I guess speaking from an outsider's perspective and not being as passionate about the club, you need results. Benchmarks are wins and losses in this professional organisation. It's not about effort anymore. It's not the under-19s, going for their grand final. It is unfortunately it is results driven, and that's there's no other way around that. And for the last 2 years, as Lee's just said, he's been happy with where they've been at with their effort. I just it's frustrating to see someone like Michael Maguire be treated the way he was. I think that he was someone who could have taken the Tigers somewhere, but just didn't have the leadership where he needed it. Instead, they sided with players. I hope this, as we move forward now, that this next management, gets it right, can support Benji if with the decisions he makes. And if Benji's not the man for the job, move on that one too. This is a results-driven business. It's not about effort.
And on the results too, and this is, you're exactly right. The West Tigers have completed 24 seasons. 24 seasons. How many times have they played in the top 8?
Yeah, wow.
So the top 8,
yeah.
but the top 8, right, has been half the competition up until the Dolphins came in last year.
Yeah, right.
And we're in a salary cap era. So you've got to finish in the top
8.
half
Yep.
only of the competition, and you've got rules favouring you with salary cap and whatnot to make that happen.
Yep.
In 24 seasons, probability and mathematics say that every club should finish in the top 8 12 times prior to the Dolphins coming in.
Yeah.
The West Tigers in 24 seasons have finished top 8 3 times.
Wow, that's, mind-blowing. You love your stats, don't you?
Yeah, but that's a compelling one, right?
Yeah.
3 times in 24 seasons when probability and mathematics say all the favours come your way, you should be there as a minimum 12 times.
Yep.
And we've done it 3 times.
And do you know the other thing that really amazes me about, and it just goes to show how much of a brilliant product, which we will talk about a little bit later on, rugby league really is the passion and the loyalty that these West Tigers fans have showed. They've remained loyal. They hang on every year. With everything, thinking, okay, right, we've done that. We're going to get there. This is our year. You hear them, and you hear that there's real belief.
Yep.
A lot of other clubs, fans don't stick around like that. They're not as loyal.
No. Have your say too, by the way. If you wish to have your say, 1300 01 1170. The SEN Network. I don't know if there's a radio station on the planet who talks more rugby league than what we do. Have your say. Kerry O'Keefe, I don't think we'll love that too much, but that's fine. 1300 01 1170 or text 0457 736 736. Here's one of the big mistakes. And I love Tim Sheens, but I said to, and I won't embarrass them because they're on the way out, I said to a certain outgoing person, I said, Sheensy has achieved a lot in the game, but please go through his defensive records. The game is now about defence. Sheens is a great innovator. I would not be signing him as the coach because you need to be led by defence these days. We've seen that with the Panthers, the Roosters, the Storm. That's what wins your competitions. But despite me saying that, they couldn't give it rats, and they signed him on that. And we see the numbers for the West Tigers the last couple of years.
You
in
being
defence.
a former player, you obviously, again, I always sort of put it out there. Yeah, okay, I've never played the game. I remember having a very similar conversation, just not even on the back of Tim Sheens and his defence, just on his achievements overseas in the lead up to him coming to the West Tigers, and he wasn't the man for the job. If you did, a little bit of research. Big fan of Tim Sheens, he coached my husband at one stage, same time as you. They're back at, the Tigers.
And a Hall of Fame coach, Michelle. There's no question about that.
100%. But at that time, he wasn't the right man for the job. And this is what I'm saying to you. We came up with this big marketing spin that we're going to revisit the glory days of, was it 2005 with Tim Sheens and Benji Marshall. And this was the next big thing that we're all going to focus on and promise that, now we're going to deliver. And then, 12 months in, we're going to talk about him working with Benji and bringing out the best in Benji, then that was knocked on the head and Benji was going to do it all on his own. The West Tigers fans have been promised so much for so long that hopefully today is a line in the sand and they actually start to make some moves.
Well, I reckon with this independent review, which we don't have the details for, but the first thing that I think about is, and I said this at the time on this very program, is that you become the sum of the average that you hang around most, and all ships rise with the tide, right? Yep. So your leaders in a club, that's why the Melbourne Storm having Slater, Cronk and Smith, and your hardest workers are also your best players. Mm-hmm. Penrith similarly. You're seeing James Fisher-Harris and Yo and Cleary and Liam Martin, and you just know Dylan Edwards. You just know they're your hardest workers. Jerome Law, part of that as well.
Well, when you speak to all the elite players that go off into New South Wales or into Origin camp or playing for Australia, that's the first thing that some of them, the newbies go in and see. It rubs off them. They soak up everything the way these elite players prepare. And you want to hope that they go back to their own clubs and that starts that sort of, ball happening for them.
So my concern at the time, and I was very vocal that I was pro-Madge, and yes, the numbers weren't there, but the board at the time decided not to stay with Madge, a premiership-winning coach. He'd won in Super League. He won at South Sydney. Mm-hmm. But the leaders at the time weren't happy with the work. And then when you get leaders who aren't on board, like the Panther, Melbourne Storm, Roosters players who had success, they start to really poison the place, right? And I go through this, and I'm not necessarily saying these guys in fact, I hear that Joe Offahengawe is an outstanding trainer, so how we let him go, I'll never know. But if you go through the leaders at the time for when Madge was sacked, and again, I'm not saying any or throwing any aspersions towards these players, but fact is fact. Joe Offahengawe, who was one of the leaders at the Tigers at the time, who the club favoured to be with the players and not with the coach, he's gone to Parramatta. James Tarmo left the club, who was the captain at the time. Jackson Hastings left the club. Luke Brooks has left the club. And we're seeing now David Norfoluma. What's going on with him right now? And I'm thinking, so these are five of the leaders, and there would be others amongst them, but here's five of the leaders who you as a board backed because, no, we're going to believe them. And you got rid of the bloke who's since gone on to beat Australia by 30, since gone on to get a deal with New South Wales, and arguably becomes one of the most sought-after coaches who would walk into a job. So that to me was just it was a major mistake, Michelle, and
huge.
It was a mistake that we shared on this program, and it was so frustrating.
Can we also just throw Brett Kamali into that mix? Yeah. I remember being there when Tim Sheens was saying, "Yep, okay, Madge is gone. This is what this is going to be, and we're going to trial." Brett Kamali, and they threw him into the mix of everything. I remember saying to Brett, "You're insane. You're crazy. You're not going to coach. You're not going to be the head coach. This is awful. You're just being thrown into the mix." I hate the lack of respect that they showed for Brett Kamali really irked me as well.
And the comment I'm about to make, I really like these two, and I've said this a number of times, and I've got no doubt that the people listening to this, who I'm about to talk about, would take it personal. It's not at all personal what I'm about to say. No. Robbie Farah, who I really, really, really like as a bloke. Benji Marshall, who I really, really, really like as a bloke, right? How does a board, honestly, how do they give a job to somebody who's never been an assistant coach, then wants to become a general manager, and they toy with the idea, and Benji, who's never coached a single game in his life prior to doing that, being a really skillful coach, quite often, if you go through some of the most talented players we've ever had, they're quite often not the best coaches because everything came a little bit easy for them, a little bit different. So again, no matter what I'm saying here, if they're listening to it, they may find this a personal attack. It's not. I really, really like Robbie Farah. I really, really like Benji Marshall. But the Melbourne Storm and the Roosters and the Panthers,
it wouldn't happen.
They don't do that. Maybe the assistant coach different, yes. So the Robbie's position's a little bit different. But they just don't do it. And it's like you start to go, you can't put brains in statues. Like it just became very, very frustrating. And Michelle, I played in the very first team. I want to be a proud supporter of the club. And I don't like constantly bashing them, right? But you get so bloody frustrated in the whole thing. And now I do have comfort that I do think that the changes we have made is a step in the right direction. Let's hit the open line. They're all fired up. 1300 01 1170. Yeah, well, exactly. Jason from Coogie's there. G'day, Jace.
Oh, how are you, mate? Just wanted to make a couple of comments for the West Tigers. Look, I'm not a West Tigers supporter, but sit back and watch that club just go as badly as it has over a long period of time, and to have people there behind the scenes in the club that they're just apologists, and they've just made mistake after mistake after mistake, and for years and years and years. And I'm actually really pleased to see that for the first time they've actually stood up and done something about it and got rid of these guys. And mate, as someone who loves rugby league, and I don't support the Tigers, but mate, I hope Benji can get some clear air and they can actually go on and have a decent year, or start to rebuild and be a dominant club that they should be. Because mate, they've got a very passionate supporter base, and mate, quite frankly, what they've dished up has just been garbage for too long, mate.
Jace, I'll tell you one thing, and this is probably talking out of school a little bit, but I think it's important I share it. I spoke to a bloke who I've got great respect of as far as his knowledge in the game, and certainly he's a bloke who should be part of the club still, but Mark O'Neill, who's now general manager at Parramatta, and I actually vented the same thing that I basically said on air, and he said, mate, all your points are valid, but he said, Benji could prove you wrong. He said he is a special guy. And I don't doubt he could, because I do believe in him saying that. But what I'm saying, the whole point of it is, yes, he could prove me wrong, but the Roosters and all these clubs just wouldn't roll the dice on it. They would do what almost the Melbourne Storm were thinking about for Jason Riles. Sign him as assistant coach, and then with a grand plan to do it. And people are going to say, oh, yeah, you had Sheensy there. But that was the mistake. I love Sheensy, but it was a mistake from the get-go. And Freddie of the cannot see variety was all over that from the get-go.
Joel, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Planning was the key word. I don't think they actually had a plan. I think that was all thinking on the run, and it was all more emotion and, okay, well, this will win them over. We'll try this, we'll do that. And what was evident there was that the whole okay, let's go back to those glory days. Let's win the fans over. We think Tim Sheens and Benji Marshall are going to get this job done. Now, less than 12 months into that, we're thinking, okay, well, that's not working. That's been a disaster. They're not seeing eye to eye. The leaks from the club just continued, which I will say that is a concern because it's happened again today. This has been leaked. Yeah. There was no fancy press conference. There was no anything. It's actually been leaked again. I'm hoping that sort of stuff will stop, because it doesn't happen at the bigger clubs like the Melbourne Storms and, the Roosters and that sort of stuff. This was a big story. Obviously, it was going to get out. But I just think the planning is that there was no plan moving forward. It's just like, how are we going to stay in our roles and keep doing what we're doing and keep the fans engaged and believing that this is going to get better?
But, Michelle, it's
a car crash.
It's fanboying or fangirling. Yes, the West Tigers won the comp in 2005, and I was lucky to be around. I wasn't in the team, and there's no spite out of any of that. But there's been 24 competitions won in the time the West Tigers have been there. Yeah. And all those clubs haven't got jobs because they won a comp. The West Tigers in 2005 didn't win the minor premiership in a gallop. They snuck into the top four and then went on a magical run for 4 weeks. You can't operate that way. You cannot operate that way. 1300 01 1170. Shane from Marrickville. This is not Richardson, is it? G'day, Shane.
No, Joel, look, just on Shane Richardson, now that he's moved on to West Tigers from Brisbane East Tigers / Firehawks, that just about puts a final nail on the coffin of that expansion bid, I'd say. I think you're right, Michelle. It'll be the New Guinea franchise. But look, I hate to say it, Joel, the bottom line is with West Tigers, mate, and a lot of people say it, until they move lock, stock and barrel to Campbelltown and embrace that whole southwest with thousands of juniors and that expanding, growing area, they'll be stuck in the time warp of having to feed Leichhardt and look after Campbelltown. You can't have it both. They've got to make that move and embrace that whole southwest area.
I don't disagree with that, Shane. Living like the gypsy life as the pikeys in Snatch, it doesn't work. You can't play 1,000 home games all over the bloody universe. I don't disagree with that, Shane from Marrickville. Keep the calls coming through. There's a stack of calls waiting. We'll get to those very, very shortly, but we must break. 1300 01 1170. It's the run home with Joel and the Bish today. Plenty of texts coming through. We'll get to the best of those, but we're getting absolutely smacked with those. We appreciate it. Keep them coming through. For example, Solomon, hopefully a brighter future ahead for the loyal West Tigers fans. As a lifelong Dragon supporter, I'm starting to feel your pain in recent times. Simon from Balgownie. Plenty of texts coming through. Let's hit the open line. No, that's your easiest way. That's your fast lane at Perisher. Let's go to Al from Rhodes. G'day, Al.
G'day, Sugar. How are you, mate?
Good, Al. What do you got, mate?
you guys must have been taking some common sense tablets this afternoon. Unbelievable. I agree with everything you said. The biggest factor was Benji, mate. Benji's a great guy. I know him personally. He's a member of my golf club, so he's a good bloke. To give someone a 5-year contract is absolutely unbelievable. I mean, Wayne Bennett didn't even get a 5-year contract in the Dolphins.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, it just can't. It's just absolutely, like, it looks to me like, I hope he's a success, but I've got my doubts, mate. I just don't think you can run into a position like that. Maybe if you're at the top of the tree and you're at a Penrith or a Melbourne Storm, you go into one of their facilities, maybe it's a different kettle of fish, but not at a club that's struggling like them, mate. I fear for Benji's future, I really do.
He's under some pressure, straight up. As you say, this wouldn't happen at a Roosters, at a Penrith, at a Melbourne Storm. They'd have a plan in place and give him a go, give him, see how things are going to pan out. But again, as I say, I reinforce my first point is it's been driven by emotion and trying to keep the fans involved and believing that something's going to come of this.
He's a winner. He could prove me wrong.
He's brilliant.
It's not the call I would have made, and it's nothing personal against Benji. It's not the call I would have made, but he is a winner. And as Mark O'Neill said, he could absolutely prove us wrong. He could absolutely do that. Really quick one from the bag down at Central Coast. Baggy, what's happening, mate?
Oh, just on the back of Michelle, who I'm a fan of, I must say, but saying leaks to the media out of the club, like they might do it more than most, but rugby league's run by planting a story in the media, isn't it?
You know what?
Out there,
Baggy, you know what I think with this board? They've been under such pressure for so long that they're kind of feeling like, okay, let's feed the media, and if I'm the one feeding the media, I might be protecting myself from getting a lashing.
The story go one way and the way, an agenda, basically. You're 100% right. There's leaks all over the joint, but this club in particular it was awful.
Fresh start, hopefully, Baggy, from the Central Coast. We appreciate that.
Thanks for the call.
Heaps of calls there. We'll get to those very, very shortly. The Run Home with Joel and the Bish. Welcome back to the Run Home, the Tradie Hour. Thanks to MS Safety, your Australian-owned workwear and PPE provider. Call of the week, and there's going to be plenty today. Don't worry about that. Winner gets a $1,000 Red Smoke Alarm household pack. Think Red Smoke Alarms. Think 10-year warranty. Think Australian-owned. Now, Michelle, I just want to clarify something because it is widely been reported that the entire, and we even had it ourselves here on SEN, the entire board of the West Tigers has been let go on. I don't believe that is
Not
fact.
the case,
I believe my mail, and I'm pretty decent male, that Danny Stapleton will remain on the board. So I don't believe the entire board of the West Tigers are there. Danny Stapleton from the Balmain faction side of things, is my understanding, will remain on the West Tigers board.
And I'll just say, I don't think that's a bad thing.
He's
a big fan of Danny Stapleton.
Yep, and he's a rock-solid human as well. 1300 01 1170 is a way to have your say, or text 0457 736 736. By gee, there's some text coming through.
Oh, wow.
Joel and Michelle, I think it's a great thing for the Tigers, what has happened this afternoon. Big question is, what happens to the major sponsorship now, Greenkeeping Rooster? Well, Lee's actually a sponsor of the SEN network as well. Hagipantelis, I'm talking about Brian's lawyers. Look, I
can't see him pulling it.
Well, he's a Tigers man, right?
Massive Tigers man.
So he'll stay solid because otherwise it looks differently. He'll be fine. I wouldn't question that upon Lee and Bryden's whatsoever. I think he'll stay rock solid to the club. He's not that kind of guy to be throwing his toys out, so to speak.
Yeah, there's
if
another
that's
one.
How you want to put it.
Hey guys, to the Tigers board, and in particular Justin Pascoe Tata.
Yep.
Well.
Yeah, well, that's sport, Michelle. It's I know that people involved will take it personal. It's not personal. People are just passionate about their sporting clubs. Something had to happen. Something had to give, and that's exactly what. You can't run top 8 3 times in 24 seasons in a competition that is supported by a salary cap, which for all intents and purposes is to level things out.
Yeah. And
you've only got to make the top half of the field to play finals football. 3 out of 24 is just not going to cut it. 1300 01 1170. We have to get on the break, folks. Sorry about that. We've been top heavy at the start of the show. But keep the calls coming through to those callers waiting by. We'll get to those on the other side of this. The Run Home with Joel and the Bish.